What is going on? Welcome to the pod. So, body mass index, or BMI for short. You've likely heard of it. You may have heard that it's useless or useful. In this episode, we are going to cover what it is, who it's for, who it's not for, what my BMI used to be when I was a chubster, what it is right now, as well as a few of the best ways to assess body composition for the vast majority of folks. Is it BMI or is it something else? Let's dig into it. First of all, what is BMI? It's a simple formula that takes your weight and divides it by your height, which then spits out a number, and you reference that number in comparison to the categories designated to BMI measurements. And the categories are: less than 18.5 is considered underweight. 18.5 to 24.9 is considered normal weight. Overweight is 25 to 29.9, and obese is 30 and up. Now, right off the bat, you're probably noticing at least one limitation, which is that it takes your weight and divides it by your height. However, your total body weight as a crude number does not account for muscle mass versus fat mass. And so technically, someone that is 5'10", 180 pounds at 20% body fat would have the same BMI as someone who is 5'10", 180 pounds at 12% body fat. And clearly, these two folks have very different body compositions, i.e. muscle mass to fat ratio, and therefore their health status is going to be different with all other things being equal. The individual at 12% body fat is almost certainly going to be healthier than the person at 20%, meaning if someone has a lot of muscle mass and they're also very visually lean, BMI may not be the best measurement tool for these specific individuals. However, the folks that fall into this category aren't all that common, because when I say a lot of muscle mass, I mean a lot. When you look at these men and women, you're like, damn, you are jacked and lean. And so if you are questioning whether you are in this category or not, you're probably not. I am not in this category. For example, back in the day when I was fluffier, we'll say, I would tell myself that yes, I had some body fat, but I was also carrying a whole bunch of muscle. And that wasn't actually true, which I found out once I truly got lean. And it was super sobering info, but also really informative because I was just straight up deceiving myself. I was way heavier than I should have been, and most of what I thought was muscle, because I was working out regularly, was actually body fat. I thought I had like 20 pounds to lose. It was 3 times that. I had 60 pounds to lose in order to get as lean as I wanted to get. Now, it's worth mentioning that most people do not want to get and stay as lean as I like to, but you get the idea. My BMI used to be 30.1, which means that I was categorically obese. Now, fortunately, I've worked on my nutrition, movement, and sleep habits since then, and now my BMI is 22, which puts me pretty much smack dab in the middle of the normal range, which again is 18.5 to 24.9. So, for a ton of folks, it turns out that BMI is actually a pretty darn good tool to use to assess whether you may benefit from losing some body fat. Now, one of the tricky parts about our current health status as a society is that most people are in fact carrying far too much fat. And because of this, our perception of what's quote unquote normal is being skewed by what's common. Now, everyone's goals and priorities are going to differ, and no matter what your body composition is, if you are genuinely happy with it, more power to you. That is awesome. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the most healthful position. But of course, that's a choice that we all get to make for ourselves. Hey guys, if you're finding the pod valuable and you're looking for a completely cost-free way to support us, it would be awesome if you could rate it on your favorite podcast player so we can reach more folks with this info. Okay, back to the episode. Now, someone cornered me at a party and was like, Marcus, if you had to, how would you explain a healthful body composition without BMI or any fancy tools to a group of people on a podcast, let's say? It would be as follows. Whether you are male, female, 20 years old, or 60 years old, 100 pounds, or 200 pounds, in my opinion, I think that eating, moving, and sleeping in a way that results in you having a flat stomach, and so that you're not carrying visible excess body fat, is an awesome general recommendation. Meaning, if things are shaking and moving a whole bunch, when you move, you'll almost certainly want to think about getting leaner. Now, I'm not saying that you have to get this lean. I'm just saying that if you're looking to put yourself in the best position to thrive and stave off diseases like cardiovascular disease, cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's, etc., it is not a bad target to shoot for. Can you get too lean to a point where your health actually begins to decline because you're not carrying enough body fat? Yes. However, it's very rare that general population folks are getting lean enough to where this is relevant. It can happen, it's just not common. Now, there are other body fat assessment tools like DEXA scans, bod pods, body fat calipers, those bioelectrical impedance scales, which are complete shit, by the way. However, the best way to assess your body composition is actually the simplest of them all, and it takes 2 seconds. It's the mirror. And the primary reason why I like it so much is because only you truly know whether you are stoked on where you're at or not. So it takes generalized formulas, averages, and calculations out of the mix completely, and it applies perfectly to you as an individual. Because let's say that you did want to go into a lab and get a formal DEXA body fat scan done, and it comes back and it says that you are X% body fat. If you're still unhappy with how you look in the mirror, what does that digit matter, right? Even if it's lower than you thought that it might be. The same concept also actually applies to BMI. If you calculate your BMI by Googling BMI calculator and entering your height and your weight, and it says that you're in the quote-unquote normal range, and yet you're not content with how you're looking in the mirror, your BMI may be helpful, but it's definitely not perfectly relevant, because where the rubber really meets the road is when you look in the mirror, are you stoked or not? Simple as that. Now, truth be told, most folks would not only be healthier, but also feel healthier if they got leaner. They'd likely increase their libido, regulate their hormones, improve their sleep, their mood would be more predictable and calm, their mental and emotional health would progress in a beneficial direction, their energy would go up, their digestion would be better, and the list goes on. Being lean is essentially whistle stop number one because we are so certain of how detrimental to our health that being overweight is. It increases the likelihood that we get any and all diseases. Now, that obviously doesn't mean that I recommend getting skinny in whatever way you can, the coffee, cigarette, and cocaine diet. Of course not. Favor single ingredient whole foods and getting an adequate amount of high quality animal protein, hit 10,000 steps per day, and sleep 7 to 9 hours nightly. If you want to work out on top of that, even better. The key really is taking a healthful lifestyle approach that you can sustain over the long term And when it comes to body composition assessment, you can absolutely use BMI or any other modality. But in my opinion, the most useful way to determine where you are now and potentially where you'd like to go is by stripping down to your birthday suit and stepping in front of a mirror. In regards to assessing whether you are losing fat, or in other words, how to tell if you're moving in the right direction or not, that is different. And so I'd recommend listening to episode number 97 titled How to Know Whether You're Losing Fat or Not. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at n1fitness, on TikTok at the n1fitness, and on YouTube at marcussadoo/n1fitness. If you'd like to stay up to date on the newest episode releases, you can hit the subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode useful, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya!